Welcome to the review in A Course of Love. We're going to combine two chapters in this review. Chapter 2 is so short, and Chapter 3 is short also. So for the first time, I'm combining those two chapters in this review. And the first chapter is to hear the call, and the second is to answer the call. So, Chapter 2, the talk of treasure, which we just did in Chapter 1, paves the way to understand the calling. So, let's talk about calling for a little bit. Verse 1, what is it in you that recognizes talents that lie fully realized within? It is the heart that sees with true imagination, and the heart that speaks to you in terms that are consistent with the idea you currently hold of hearing a call or having a calling. So this is actually asking the question, what is it your heart inside knows that, yeah, I could do that. I'd be good at that. That would feel right to me. That would feel good to me. The heart recognizes that because you have those talents within you. You came in with them. Even in the world, people experience the concept of calling. In the book, he talks about, how does a doctor know that they're called to be a doctor? Why would a person be a teacher when it pays so poorly, especially given the education you have to have? Because there's a calling that's sensed in people. And not everyone experiences that calling in their vocation, but that's an example. In fact, the call itself is proof of the heart's ability to be heard, to recognize what is unseen. And everyone can hear the heart's call when the mind and heart act in union. So this is commonly accepted knowledge in the world, even among people who don't consider themselves spiritual at all. They have this sense of calling about some things. That's because we can always hear the heart. Verse 9, you think that what prevents you from being who you are is far broader than a division between mind and heart. Only in your own willingness does anything exist, because only in your willingness is the power of creation expressed. So this is a reminder that really it's your willingness that has created the world that you're living in right now. It's a reflection of your division between mind and heart. Your life is already an act of creation. It exists, fully realized within you. Your work here, meaning in this world, is to express it. You created your life here in union with the one mind and one heart. In union, in other words, with God. It wasn't done to you. You created it. Everything you have ever wanted to be is. Everything you've ever thought or imagined is, and is reflected in the world you see. The only difference between the life you are living and the life you want lies in your willingness to express who you are. So, the victim stance is gone. This world was created by you in union with the one mind and heart. And now you're at the place where you can actually express who you really are inside, consciously, no longer reacting simply out of this unconscious conditioned mode, but consciously accessing the blueprint that you came in with. Form is here for the purpose of expression, to express outwardly what exists in unity. So this whole concept of coming to live at the Christ is involved in this. Living as the Christ is something new. It's living in body or living in form, the expression of what exists in unity, the perfect expression of God through your form. That's what we're talking about here. And verse 2 tells us it's like a trunk full of treasure, like a menu of possibilities. All you must do is wholeheartedly recognize the treasure you have already chosen to bring to the world. Your heart tells you of the already accomplished and bids you to express it with your physicality, thus uniting the two realms through expression. So what this is telling us is that it's already there. You don't have to create it, find it. You just need to look for what's already there and express it in the physical world. We're going to get some further instruction on how that happens. But this is laying the groundwork for the idea that your perfection, your possibilities and treasure is already accomplished. And all that needs to happen is that it is brought forward and expressed on the outside. Verse 3 tells us, your heart exists where you think you are, thus providing the means for union between where you think you are and where your being actually resides. So we've been told this before in this course, is that the heart has to be where you think you are. So if you think that you're a separate individual living in this world, your heart has to be there. And your heart is what actually connects you with your wholeness. So all this work has to be done through the heart, because the heart is like the passageway. Remember always that your heart is where the Christ abides in you, and that the Christ is your identity. It is the Christ in you that learns to walk the earth as a child of God, as who you really are. So it's the Christ in you that's got that seed, that blueprint of God in form. And that can only be accessed through the heart. It is the Christ in you that this course is for. The Christ in you is the one who learns. Now, I don't know if you'll remember back to the beginning of A Course of Love, and he says, if the ego can't learn, and God or Holy Spirit doesn't need to learn, who's this course for? Who's doing the learning here? And he's reminding us it's the Christ in you that's doing the learning. As if the Christ in you has somehow been covered up by the personal self. And the Christ in you is the one that needs to be brought into the recognition that, oh, that's not the way things were, the way things are. This is the way things are. And then it's the Christ in you that will rise up and embody the expression of God through you. So he reminds us that you now know these things to be true. You're far enough in the course of love and far enough on your spiritual path that you've become aware of the fact that these are true. And ask yourself, this is all about the truth, this process. Ask yourself, you've realized that you're learning? Have you recognized that in yourself? Yeah, I'm actually knowing some things I didn't know before. Recognizing some things I didn't recognize before. And you've felt the peace and love of the embrace. There's something within you that's resonated, that's gone, oh, yeah. That's why you're still here. That's why you're still studying A Course of Love, is because there is a part of you that's recognized that that's real, and that felt that feeling of resonating. And something real is happening to you. This is not like other things where, I've got a new belief system that I can translate my world through. Something real is going on. There's something alchemical happening. A remembering, a waking up is happening within you. So ask yourself if that isn't true, that all of those three things are happening. And they're happening because the identity of the Christ self is beginning to recognize itself. So it's time to take on the identity of the Christ self. This recognition will help you express that self in order for the return to unity to be realized. So it's important to really recognize that that's happening within you so that you can come into your fullness as the Christ. Verse 6. If you still balk at the idea that the Christ could be in need of learning, then your idea of the Christ is still based on the old way of thinking, as are your ideas of learning. And I know we often think of, Jesus the Christ as being a completely perfect being who is fulfilled and is a perfect representation of man as God. He's telling us, open your mind. The Christ, just like the rest of creation, never stops. It just keeps evolving. It's not static. We don't arrive somewhere. It just keeps unfolding, keeps creating. It's new all the time. Learning isn't linear. Everything already exists within you, and it just needs to be expressed. Verse 7. Creation is a continuous and ongoing expansion of the same thought of love that brought life into existence. There we are. That's it. It's continuous. It's never going to stop. You're never going to stop evolving. You're never going to stop expanding and expressing and becoming new and more wonderful. And if you think of it in your ego terms, it'll make you tired. Really, it's never going to stop. But if you think of it from the Christ self, then there's this recognition, like, of course not. And that verse goes on, the power of creation is released through your choice, your willingness to express that act of creation. Because you are an act of creation. You're tuned into that energy. That's what this unity is talking about. You are a product of that beautiful creative energy that wants to express into form through you. And verse 8. Christ is the continuous and ongoing expansion. Now notice this is a repeat, which I checked, it is a repeat in the book as well. So I decided to repeat it, of the same thought of love that brought life into existence. So the first one says creation is that expansion. The second one says Christ is the expansion. So creation is the broad expression of that energy that continuously expands, and Christ is the specific in you ongoing expansion of that love thought. Christ is your identity within the unity that is creation. So there we have it. The Christ in you is your identity that rests within the unity of which we are all a part. So thanks for joining us. The next chapter 4 follows up on this beautifully, and so I hope that you will join me for that.